Hello, and welcome to this week's Terrace Bay Council meeting. Tonight, CAO John Hall will be giving an update to Council on the recent Roma conference. The delegation met with various ministers to discuss issues affecting Terrace Bay and the surrounding areas. The bylaw officer's report will also be presented. Council will then review the town's strategic plan. The Community Development Supervisor report will present a wish list of proposed projects for the upcoming year. Funding for these projects will be actively pursued. There will also be a discussion to focus on the future of the ski hill, recognizing the importance of volunteers in the ongoing operations of the site. This evening's agenda is up next. Have a good evening, and thank you for watching.
On Monday, February 3rd, I call this meeting of the Corporation of Town of Terrace Bay to order. Declaration: the Council of the Town of Terrace Bay hereby acknowledges that we are in the Robinson Interior Treaty Territory. The land on which we gather is a traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Métis. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, I have a motion moved by Councillor St. Louis, seconded by Councillor Aduno. Resolved that council approve the agenda for the regular council meeting held February 3rd, 2025 as presented. All in favor? Carried. Are there any disclosures of interest? Hearing none, I have a motion moved by Councillor Duno, seconded by Councillor St. Louis. Resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held January 13th, 2025 be approved as presented. Any questions on that motion? All in favor? Carried. Next item, we have a motion moved by Councillor Duno, seconded by Councillor St. Louis. Resolved that the minutes of the special council meeting held January 17th, 2025 be approved as presented. Any questions on that motion? All in favor? Carried. Reports from administration. Yeah.
Hey, George, just a brief recap of the Roma conference. So we did attend, as I said, 9 out of 10 delegations that we requested. First up was the Solicitor General, and that was basically advocacy over policing cost increases. So we are paying less than we were last year, but there's no guarantee that the discount will continue on beyond 2025. So that was actually with staff, not with any minister or PA. Then we had energy. So it was basically expansion of energy generation transition in the north, and we also did a joint delegation with Marathon there over the natural gas project. Waiting to see if another natural gas loan or grant program gets announced. So obviously we're in election mode right now. That's not going to happen. Then the NDP caucus, which is basically everything we've met with the other ministries, a summary of that. Plus, we also advocate a little bit on behalf of Scribner's Bank closing. So we were pressed for time in that one, though, so we barely got to everything. Wasn't a lot of time for Q&A. Minister of Sport, we really was just discussing the recently released sport recreation infrastructure funding grant. It was only $220 million for the entire province. And it was grossly oversubscribed according to the minister. So, and really, it was going to go to a lot of larger centers because of the throughput, the numbers that the bigger centers can have through their recreation infrastructure now. They have more people using the arena, therefore they're likely to get grant funding ahead of us. So, infrastructure was actually a pretty good delegation. We've been advocating for infrastructure funding not tied to housing, and interestingly enough, we were at a delegation when Minister Surma was delivering her speech, and she announced a new infrastructure funding program, health and safety under the wastewater program. it's not specifically tied to housing, so administration will be looking to apply for that grant. Municipal affairs, we discussed housing seed funding for supportive housing. Currently, the province isn't really providing a lot of funding with respect to seed funding on the seed funding side of things for housing. And we also discussed AMO's economic and prosperity review. Next day, health, we had discussed EMS regulations and the ability to allow a driver to drive the ambulance if there was only one paramedic available. Doctor recruitment was another hot topic. Basically, the competition that's occurring right now between northern municipalities to attract both full-time physicians and locums, and also public health funding. And then last but not least was certainly the discussion with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. Just nothing on the mill. There wasn't much really coming out of that meeting. Really, it's kind of we're in the same position we've been in for a while now. Not a lot of news. This is good news essentially. But they continue to advocate on our behalf, and they're going to do everything they can to get the mill back on the way. Paul, what do you mean?
No, pretty well covered. Yeah, it was a busy Monday there. We didn't get in to see too much. The conference or meetings pretty well all day. So yeah, it was good. Some good dialogue there with the ministers. Any questions? No. Okay, thanks, John. Paul, you're up.
Thank you. Good evening. Evening, Paul. So I'm reporting to you for the period beginning on May 22nd of last year up until the end of this past November. And I've summarized, if you care to review my my work here, I've summarized everything by month. Don't really want to spend an awful lot of time going through item by item by item, but just kind of a quick overview of things in the last week of May, back in 2024. We had an issue with an aggressive dog. An individual withdrew a complaint about that, and no more action was required. The township also had me begin a dumping investigation on municipal and residential property within the township. And I'll be speaking more to this throughout my presentation today. But this turned into become a major investigation, the biggest one that we've undertaken in my time here. And there's been an awful lot of time and effort put into that. In June, a noise issue, people burning garbage, feeding birds during the closed season, so to speak. Unsecured garbage, again, wildlife attractants seems to be a problem sometimes, especially in June. Bears are coming out. Off-road vehicle on the main beach resulted in one charge being laid. An individual who should have known better, and so there was no warning given in that situation. We had another situation where there was unauthorized camping or tenting within a residential zone. This is kind of a new one. It was investigated, found to be unfounded, and the matter was closed. June saw me undertaking the annual townwide lawn patrol. We do this every year. I personally inspected over 800 lots in the township. 48 lots required attention with their lawns as compared to 53 back in 2023. As is the custom, warning letters followed by re-inspections resolved most of the outstanding issues. There was a handful of delinquent properties that still required action by township staff. And those owners who continue to neglect their property, if the township steps in and looks after the property for them, those owners are charged in fee for service. And the major dumping investigation was ongoing throughout June. July, we have another off-road vehicle on the main beach. These are typically quads, resulted in a warning, some more unsecured garbage, investigating and documenting an abandoned residential property. That is an ongoing matter. A situation where an individual was discharging fireworks within the residential area, resulted in a warning. And again, our illegal dumping situation, our investigation was carrying on into July. In August, a relatively quiet month. We had a situation where there was a complaint of township property being damaged. However, upon investigation, it was found to be an unfounded complaint, and the complaint was withdrawn. With regard to that major investigation, I issued two property standards orders in that month in an effort to try and resolve that issue. In September, property standards issue again regarding lighting. That matter was corrected and a warning was issued. Excessive noise issue in September. In September, in the previous month, I mentioned to you that I issued two property standards orders for the stumping matter. Those property standards orders were not fulfilled. And this is the first situation, again, in my experience, being with the town, where we stepped in and we used township resources to affect the changes with the property standards orders. And that was done for a fee. The fee was recovered by the town. In October, unsecured garbage, unauthorized home occupation in a residential zone. So what this is somebody conducting a business that's unauthorized in a low density residential area and is a violation of our zoning bylaw. We've had quite a few of these in the last 2 or 3 years, especially since COVID, or during and since COVID. And so it's not surprising to see 1 or 2 of these things pop up from time to time. Property standards issue with relating to garbage, 2 charges were laid in that matter. Occupy a prohibited dwelling within a residential zone. This was a new matter, and that resulted in 2 what we refer to as Part 3 charges, which are summonses to court, and those matters will go to trial. That trial is probably going to be set sometime in, trying to recall, March. Yeah. I was asked to serve provincial offense notices on behalf of the Township of Schreiber later on in October. So that was a call for service there. In November, property standards issue, flooding of one neighbor's property on another. We had some consultation. That complaint was withdrawn. No action was required. We had a dog at large. It was located. A warning issued. A new matter for me. I have become appointed as an officer and an inspector under the Residential Tenancy Act. This is new legislation for me to enforce. It's been interesting, and basically what this does is it involves the township in dealing with tenants who are not getting the services that they require from their landlords. So anyway, these matters were relating to heat, household heat, and hot water issues. So they were investigated. The investigation began and it went on into December. In December, those matters were still ongoing from time to time. Still working on those. We had a matter where snow was being deposited illegally on somebody else's property, another noise complaint. And we finally were able to mitigate the Residential Tenancy Act issues with the hot water. January, this past month, 2 more issues regarding the Residential Tenancy Act. Again, hot water. Those were resolved. Warning was issued. We had an unauthorized home occupation in a residential zone. Another one. Warning was issued for that. The matter was corrected. And we had an aggressive dog issue. And under our new dog bylaw that was passed last year, I issued the township's first muzzling order on an animal that was residing in the township. Currently investigating a matter where trees are being cut illegally on township property. That's an ongoing investigation. We had another property standards matter relating to lighting, which was investigated and found to be unfounded. And we had 3 issues relating to snow being deposited on the roadway, and they have all since been resolved. It says on the report here that they were ongoing, but they have been resolved since this went to print. So in summary, very quickly, from in the 8-month period that I've summarized this evening, I've had 42 complaints. There's been 17 warnings issued, 5 charges laid. 3 matters were found to be unfounded, and 2 matters were withdrawn by the complainants. If you do the math, you may wonder why the warnings charges unfounded and withdrawn don't total 42. It's really difficult to sometimes to know exactly how to dice up these complaints when they come in. Sometimes we have multiple complaints coming in for the same issue. And other times we have one complaint which actually leads to multiple issues. So I've done the best I can. That's as close as I can get it. But I understand there's a little bit of, there could be a bit of confusion in how that's interpreted. You can see on the breakdown, there's a pretty uniform distribution in the complaints and issues breakdown here. Pretty uniform distribution across a wide variety of bylaws. There's nothing really that stands out. It's always one of this, two of that, three of this, one of another. There's nothing really, I don't find any large trends through the 8-month period. So that's basically the 8-month summary. The only other thing that I wanted to mention really quickly was I wanted to thank Rebecca House for all of her hard work. Rebecca has been so helpful. It's a steep learning curve when she joined us, and there's a lot of stuff that we've been throwing at her and with respect to bylaw enforcement and preparing orders and so on really quickly. And you've done a fantastic job, and it's really helped me out an awful lot. So thank you very much. And I'm free for questions.
Any questions?
You mentioned you haven't seen any trends over the last 8 months, a little year over year. Is it kind of on par with previous years in your experience?
I would say so, yes. I actually, Gary, that's a good question. No, I'm gonna change my answer there. I'm seeing an increase in the amount of work. I think there was a big bump after COVID when it was possible for citizens to go online and register complaints, online digitally rather than coming into the office. Since then, I've seen a steady increase in the number of complaints that are coming in. I also seeing we have a lot of new citizens. A lot of people that are new to Terrace Bay and are coming here from other places. A lot of them are coming from bigger centers. How do I say this? A lot of people that are coming here are less tolerant. I guess I don't know how else to put it. They're less tolerant of things and a little more demanding, and so those things are all contributing, I think, to a general increase in the amount of work that I'm getting.
No one else? Okay. Thank you very much, Paul.
Thanks,
Paul. Appreciate it. Okay, we have a motion moved by Councillor St. Louis, seconded by Councillor Duno, resolved that council accept the report of the bylaw enforcement officer as presented. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of strategic plan.
Thank you, Your Worship. So council is aware that we've been working on our strategic plan since the beginning of essentially mid-2023 through the beginning of 2024. We did the reset. We had the presentation of the strat plan at the meeting in January. Basically going back, council approved an application for a Bednor grant to assist with funding back in about a year ago now. And the June 3rd, 2024 meeting, we issued an RFP. And subsequently McQueen Galloway and Associates were selected successful proponent. They engaged with us, in mid-July to early August. We had one-on-one interviews with all the council and senior management team. Community stakeholder engagement group sessions were held twice in October. There was also an online survey and with staff internally and the community at large. A draft document was provided to the township in November for review. And then, as I said already, they presented at the January 13th meeting. The strategic plan, which is attached to the report, covers the period from 2025 to 2029. It contains an updated vision, mission statements, and is centered around the following goals: healthy community, creating a welcoming, connected community, which we can all call home; safe and sound infrastructure, enhance our community by effectively maintaining our municipally owned buildings, roads, sidewalks, water, and wastewater assets; resilient and diversified economy, progressively support our local businesses while leveraging Terrace Bay's unique advantages to attract new professional businesses; and finally, working together, nurture a supportive and respectful environment to deliver exceptional services to our community. The council will recall one of the directives that we came up with was to move forward with the strat plan, almost assuming that the mill wasn't going to reopen. How would Terrace Bay look if the mill never reopened? So that's how we frame the discussions with our consultants and through the process. Township was also provided with a tracker so the administration can regularly update council on progress as the plan is implemented and influences township actions. Administration has already started to link the new strat plan's goals and actions to the 2025 budget and will be using it for guidance as intended. So financial implications not at this time. This is essentially a last year project that we're just implementing now. So the options are that council officially adopt the 2025 to 2029 strategic plan, the appropriate bylaw will be brought forward. Option 2 is that not adopt the plan, direct administration otherwise, or short make amendments as discussed. And option 3 is direct administration otherwise. Administration is recommending adoption of the plan and the bylaw.
Any questions?
No, and I think it's a good plan and I'm looking forward to working with it.
Thank you, John. The motion moved by Councillor Duno, second by Councillor St. Louis, resolved that council officially adopt the 2025 to 2029 strategic plan and that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward. All in favor? Carried. Next item, Luke Bureau.
Thank you. The Ontario Children's Foundation Capital Grant is once again open. So this program provides 100% funding up to $200,000. Must foster physically active lifestyles, enrich lives through arts, culture, and heritage, and meet one of 3 main objectives: maintain or increase access to a program or service, extend the life facility or space, or improve the facility or space to make it more accessible. The fund does not allocate for new space. So we must be revitalizing something that's existing. Last year, we received $200,000 to revitalize the tennis courts. So this is pretty lengthy. We know that we have a lot of potential applications that the municipality could go through. Won't read it line by line, but we'll hit the high notes. So the non-exhaustive list of our potential uses are the arena dehumidifiers. We have an existing dehumidifier that is under capacity, which is what causes the bumps and the staining. What we don't know is if we require one bigger dehumidifier, 2 units and ductwork. We know that one dehumidifier is roughly $230,000, but we don't know if we need more than one. So this project is within our 5-year plan and our recommended arena upgrades. Securely plugged dehumidifier. Similar position as to the arena one. However, this one's a bit older. We know that it's just not functioning at 100%. This would be a swap out for a new one. Bowling lanes. So we could look to apply for new synthetic lanes, as well as electronic scoring. If council wanted to convert to a 10-pin, the cost would be much higher than just converting or upgrading our 5-pin system. We could look to allocate the funding towards skate park. Recent conversations with people who build skate parks, including one in Manitowoc, said that a project for ourselves would be roughly $500,000. We could look to allocate funding for the Black Path, whether that's rehabilitating the existing one. We could potentially look into expansion of the Black Path that's from the current Black Path down to the beach. The rehabilitation of the existing path, roughly $500,000. The extension is probably closer to $700,000, even though I have it listed as $70,000. We could look to change out one of our change out one of our play structures into more accessible. Could replace one of the compressors in the refrigeration room, or look to transition the fitness room into the activity room. That's a project that had been worked on for the 2021 Ontario Children's Foundation. The original estimate for that project was $1.4 million. However, that included revitalizing the office space, changing up a lot of lighting, HVAC systems. You can scale that project. Alternatively, we could look to partner with one of our local groups or sports organizations. An example includes the ski hill looking to apply for the toll road. However, I know that has been applied for in the past unsuccessfully. We could look to partner with Curling Club for kitchen renovation. If this one's a bit semantical in that if the municipality is the lead applicant, the Curling Club kitchen would be ineligible. However, the Curling Club's a not-for-profit organization, so they're allowed different programs and opportunities, and therefore the kitchen would be ineligible. That's a grant semantics. So all the projects would be big upgrades to facilities. We know that. The projects above $200,000 are likely to be eligible for stacking with other funding programs, as well as we know that NHFC, we could qualify for NHFC for all those programs, which offer 75% offset up to $500,000, or in the case of Black Path, there could be the active transportation fund as well. So talked over at length, the administration's recommendation is for the Curling Club dehumidifier. That's based on the value of the project, what we think the success of the grant would be, as well as for the upgrade of the facility. We know that the Curling Club has been asking for a new dehumidifier for several years now. However, it is a big cost. For the financial implications, so again, the Trillium Foundation will fund 100% of eligible costs up to $200,000. Our options, so our option A, the council support an application to the Ontario Trillium Foundation capital grant stream to replace the Curling Club dehumidifier. Option B, the council does not support an application to OTF to replace the Curling Club dehumidifier and directs administration otherwise. The recommendation is option A.
Any questions, comments?
A lot of good options there.
Yeah, I was,
A lot of
there's
zeros.
3 or 4 of them right off the top of my head that I would want.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, if you're just picking any off the list, you want them all, right? But what's the lowest hanging fruit with the most highest probability of success? And obviously, you've been doing this for a while and you know the needs and what's the lowest hanging, or again, the one that's probably going to be the most successful and the highest needs. So taking all these to account too, like some are, well, what's critical, what's important, what's nice to have, right? When you start looking at things. So yeah, I think that's good. I like that.
We haven't had a comparison in usership between like Curling Club versus the other facilities mentioned. Like I know here's like anecdotal, not data driven, but it seems to be an uptick in curling in the last couple of years.
I'd have to agree with that.
So
it is making a comeback. I think the club is actually a lot healthier than it has been.
well, the fact that I'm curly guy is an indication that there's an
I'm the curling babysitter on the mom's field, so I've been attending them. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm okay with this. I think, you've done your homework, and if you think this is the one that we should go after, then I'm okay with it.
Thanks, Luke. No other questions? We have a motion moved by Councilor St. Louis, second by Councilor Duno, resolved that council support an application to the Ontario Trillium Foundation capital grant stream to replace the Curling Club's dehumidifier. All in favor? Carried.
Thanks, Luke. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy, you're up.
Today I'm here for the update on the Township Terrace Bay website. So on May 30th, 2024, administration issued a request for proposal for the Township of Terrace Bay's community website as part of our municipal modernization initiative, seeking it from our individuals to complete the development and modernization of the township website. Proposals were due back June 21st, 2024, and 17 proposals were received. Following the evaluation team's review, it was determined that Digital Mammoth was the preferred proposal, and the project was awarded on July 2nd, 2024. Thanks to the majority of the design and content management completed in-house by the Economic Development and Marketing intern, the township benefited greatly from this via savings on the original cost estimates. The proposal came in at $8,475 plus HST, well within the 2024 budget amount. I believe the budget amount was $30,000. The newly updated and modernized Township Terrace Bay website was successfully launched on December 24th, 2024. In addition, the new web store was optimized on January 8th, 2024, providing residents and visitors with an easy-to-use platform for purchasing local products. It includes a flat rate shipping option for anywhere within Canada and a free in-store pickup. Additional shipping options may be added at a later date. The French translation option was implemented on January 10th, 2025, ensuring that our website is inclusive and available to a wider range of users in both official languages. So financial implications, Digital Mammoth's proposal of $8,475 and the French translation edition of $1,500 makes for a total project cost of $9,975 before HST. So there are no options tonight. This report is presented as information.
Any questions?
Great project. And the website is much nicer now.
Yeah, it's easier to
Yeah,
navigate, for sure, yeah.
it was long overdue and it looks good.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion moved by Councillor Buell, second by Councillor St. Louis, resolved by council accept this report as presented as information only. All in favor? Carried.
Yeah, I'll just have cheap old. So thank you, worship. So this is with respect to the fire protection grant transfer payment agreement. So as part of the 2024 budget, the Ontario introduced a $10 million annual fire protection grant, and over the next 3 years, it's dedicated to supporting municipal fire departments for them to acquire critical equipment, address health and safety needs, improve minor infrastructure, and purchase specialized tools to enhance fire protection services. So year one of this grant focuses on health and safety, specifically cancer prevention, and also minor infrastructure updates. These fees were chosen based on feedback from fire stakeholders across the province, and what challenges and risks firefighters face in performing their duties. So Chief Bowen had submitted an application to the program during the summer window, and the township was notified via email in mid-December that we were successful. So the township, current discussion, the township is approved for $8,230.45. The funding will support the purchase of an extractor and a decontamination pack. So what's this? Extractor and decontamination pack, you ask? The Extractor 22 is a soft-mounted turnout gear washer that's programmed to meet NFPA 1851 compliance. I don't know what that is. You can ask Chief Bowen. Basically, it's making firefighter PPE safer and last longer. The decon pack, or portable gross contamination system, is a self-contained agent proportioning and rinse application system, helping provide a simple and gross decontamination of firefighting personnel and equipment. So a bylaw is required, which is the purpose of the report, to enter into the transfer payment agreement to receive the funds as required. Financial implications, the stated above, the 8230 funding will support the purchase of an extractor decontamination pack, which are included in the 2025 budget at $12,000. So township pick up those. So the options are the council accepts the funding and enters into the agreement with His Majesty the King and Right of Ontario, as represented by the Office of Fire Marshal, and the appropriate bylaw be brought forward. Option 2 is that council rejects the funding and not enter the agreement, and option 3 is that council directs administration otherwise. Administration is recommending option 1 that we enter the agreement.
Okay, any questions?
No, anytime someone has his money, we'll take it.
John, I saw an meeting on like 1.2 million for the decontamination building.
Mhm.
Yeah, last week when apparently. Side point, no questions from John. Report John, and motion moved by Councillor Buell, second by Councillor St. Louis, resolved that council accepts the funding and enters into the agreement with His Majesty the King and Right of Ontario, as represented by the Office of the Fire Marshal, and that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward. All in favor? Carried. Next item is from the Scriber Media Center, looking for a donation for the corporate Pictionary. And I'm not sure if we have given something before, John, or
So typically, as far as I know, we've given to the carnival itself, though sponsors.
I don't know if we've ever done it.
any thoughts?
I was a little bit curious whether if they're hosting or if they're sponsoring. Well, I think of sponsoring in my mind as if our organization is sponsoring something, we would provide our own prizes as opposed to, hey, we're hosting and facilitating. Seems odd to ask for donations for something you're sponsoring because in effect we become sponsors with their name on it. So that's just my thought. Doesn't mean you can't give something or donate something, but I guess I think when I was mentioning it before, it might just be a semantics thing too.
So it's, yeah, it's sweatshirt.
I don't want to share it.
I gave up, I turned.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I was
Yeah.
wondering the same thing. It's interesting, but or yeah, is it not? I don't know enough about if they're running it or sponsoring it.
I think they're running it on behalf on, as they're part of the
Right.
winter carnival.
Yeah, that would make sense to me.
Okay, so to your point, yeah, a sweatshirt or something.
Yeah.
Just see.
Piece of clothing. We could leave it up to Minden.
Although they have, I think there's a, I don't know, I've never been there, team of 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, want to swear,
Maybe we have to go 4 or something then.
yeah, I don't know. Okay, well,
Just make a suggestion, if you're looking for prizes, so administration can come up with a package.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a package, if that's fine, the council.
Or hats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
that would be a good idea.
that's works for council.
Yep.
Yeah.
okay.
You have a question?
The last chance draws in a team call. Sounds like any option.
Okay. Well, yeah, just put something together then and,
Oh, yeah. Okay, we have a motion moved by Councillor Dubé, seconded by Councillor Junior, resolved by council approve the donation of a prize package. Strider Media Center Corporate Pictionary event being held February 21st. All in favor? Carried. Bylaws. The motion moved by Councillor Duno, seconded by Councillor Dubé, resolved that a bylaw to adopt 2025 to 2029 Terrace Bay strategic plan be read first, second, and third time, and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk. Sealed and numbered on this 3rd day of February 2025. All in favor? Carried. Next bylaw, moved by Councillor Dubé, second by Councillor Duno, resolved that a bylaw to enter into an agreement with His Majesty the King in right of Ontario as represented by the Office of the Fire Marshal for the Ontario Fire Grant Transfer Payment Agreement be read first, second, and third time, and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered on this 3rd day of February 2025. All in favor? Carried. Next is other business idling of AV Terrace Bay. As John had mentioned, we met with actually Minister Smith and Minister Holland and all their staff in Toronto, and they really didn't shed too much or give us too much more information. We talked with but they did say there's still interested parties looking at the mill. Myself and John met with mill management here last week also, and they didn't really share too much except what we're told in Toronto that there's interested parties still looking, so. And then that, John?
No, it's basically it, I think, we've been told since the beginning when interested parties are interested in the mill, it's gonna take a long road of due diligence on a company's behalf to look at the mill, take a hard look at the mill and make sure that they know what they're getting into and what's gonna cost. And again, to eventually come to an offer, so. They're careful to warn us that, don't get your hopes up when you see helicopters and things like that flying around, because it could just be somebody taking a very high level look.
Any questions on that? Next item is the ski hill update and assistance discussion, and Chris, I'll let you talk about that.
Okay, thank you. Last week on January 29th, myself, the mayor, Luke, Danny, met with Paul and Kathy Shermack. And I sent out after the the meeting notes here for this meeting were sent out for council. I sent out my meeting notes for the ski hill. So if you had a little bit of time going over them, just to gain kind of an understanding. So long and the short of it, Paul and Kathy are looking to take a reduced role. Kathy mostly after this year, during this year, and then moving forward, they've been running for 14 years as volunteers. And they've run a really tight ship, in my opinion. There's lots of challenges. My communication with them when they reached out to me as council rep for the ski hill was like, I just need to figure out like what exactly you guys do. There's a lot of unknowns. So the purpose of this meeting was basically, what do you guys do? And what is your role moving forward? How do you see yourself being involved at what level? And then succession plan. So again, looking at governance, and for everybody in the crowd who wasn't there, I can sort of go through this relatively quick. Constitution. So how's it being governed? Like historically, it was a committee. Paul and Kathy, just because of who they are as people, have sort of said, "Oh, well, I'm really good at this." Paul's really good at grooming and maintaining the hill, and Kathy's really good at sort of doing the hiring, the financing, the fundraising, right? So we looked at like what are the transition plans, maybe bringing more people in. There's names who have been brought forward to help Paul with grooming, the lift. So like he's a lift, Paul's a lift mechanic, looking at potentially like training somebody else. Treasurer. So Daniel was glad was there. One of the things that Paul and Kathy have been doing is like running all the finances themselves independently of the township. And again, looking at a part of the transition plan would be like a delegation of some of these responsibilities to other people. And one of the ideas that I put forward is having the township take on the responsibility of the finances. So, and plus that alleviates volunteers dealing with money, which I think moving forward, like Paul and Kathy are very honest people, but that's something that was a concern of mine moving forward is who's doing it. If there's 5 or 6 people there handling the money, how are we doing that? We should be going to electronic money. Should be borderline as close to cashless as possible to keep things kosher. We talked about rentals, what that looks like moving forward. We talked about hiring of the students. Kathy right now does hiring. An individual stepped forward saying I'd be willing to take on the hiring, which is Jeff Birch. So he's been involved that way. Luke and I sort of talked a little bit about we have grants and support summer students. Why cannot this sort of like program potentially be rolled out so it has like winter student grants or are there full year student grants so we could have and then really sort of like look at the pool and the ski hill almost being like not quite one job, but you know what I mean? Like the qualifications to be a lifeguard are very similar to the qualifications needed to be like a ski patrol or whatnot, like a first aid CPR. And I feel like the kids who are would be doing the lifeguarding, they probably are that type of personality that they might be interested in. If there's almost not a full year position, but like a grant that could support something like that, that would be a great way forward, and that would help alleviate some of the costs from the ski hill. Danny, in an informal conversation, had mentioned that it isn't too much work because, again, the last thing I want to start doing is, okay, here's more work, Danny. Here's, just start downloading things onto his plate. So I wanted to make sure he was comfortable with understanding that extra workload that I'm just like handing it off to him. From my perspective, it makes a lot of sense to change that. Just to have the township sort of run the ins and outs. There's a few other things there. We talked about ticket sales, volunteer recruitment, what's that going to look like? Again, Kathy managing employees, managing 6 employees who's calling in sick, the relationship dynamics between the employees. She just hired 6 students for this year. Last year it didn't open. If you guys go over or not, just so you're aware, it didn't open last year because of the snow. This year we're very close to having it open. There's a couple spots with rocks. If you follow Paul on Facebook, you'll see he's been posting his progress. The tow rope was Luke mentioned that previous to being on council, I was supporting Paul and Kathy by writing grants for them for the Trillium. And I went through multiple meetings with Trillium to try to be successful. It wasn't, it's a very oversubscribed program. So unfortunately, we wouldn't, and the purpose of it was for like little kids on the bunny hill. And you wanted one that was like movable because then it doesn't have to get TSSA approval and all of that. So, but what we sort of came down to, that's a $75,000 purchase. You're like, well, wouldn't it be more prudent to say spend $20,000, replace our aging snow machine, and then just use that on the days that the little kids are there. Say it's a nice day in March, okay, we're having a beginner snow day, and that snow machine can be multi-purpose. It can be used for rescues, transportation, grooming, and all of that, but it can also be used as a replacement of the tow rope. And that sort of seemed to be a way forward that made more sense, both like economically and just overall it made more sense. I did a to-do thing like moving forward for us. I was there for the TSSA approval with Paul when he came around for the lift. And I was there when he made his recommendations about how that's going to look moving forward. Again, having another lift mechanic, because after every single day that it runs, it needs to be torqued. It gets like loose. So torque it to certain specifications, but also coming up with like an itemized checklist to make things simpler. So let's say it's not always Paul. Like Paul's been doing it for 14 years. He knows what needs to be done, but it's all up here, right? So I want to sit down with him, coming up with like, okay, what happens like every time it opens? What happens once a week? What happens once a month? What happens once a year? What are those itemized things? And we need sort of like a checkbox. What day did it happen? And he signs off on it, or whoever does it signs off. So that way, moving forward, if we go to like a multi-purpose committee or delegate workloads that way, that we can make sure we're kosher. That's pretty much it. Kathy did send me the information. They have this thing with other ski hills. I don't know if it's a portal or something, but you can apply to other ski hills rental. They get rid of their used rental stuff. They just give it to other hills and you can apply for it. So they were successful procuring some out of London, Ontario. So my parents are in Barrie, so I said to Paul, like, okay, well, send me this information. When I go visit my parents, I'll bring a trailer and I'll bring a load back up, because part of the grants that I was writing previous to council for the ski hill was the snow machine, looking at replacing the snow machine, looking at that tow, but it was also replacing some of the rental equipment, because every year like 3 or 4 skis go, some bindings go, this boots go. And quite honestly, Kathy puts a ton of time into fundraising and she makes like $2,500 a year. It's like, I really appreciate what both of them do. They're not the kind of people who are like living in the limelight or look at me, but they have put a ton of volunteer hours to make this hill run for our community. And personally, like, I'm obviously a little bit biased because my kids ski, I like to ski, but like, I definitely, and part of the strategic plan moving forward is like supporting these things in our community. So in the short term, having less responsibilities for the people moving forward, help to entice them to volunteer, taking the financial aspect out of it, just to make sure that, nobody's, what's the word? There just isn't like that worrying about stealing and stuff like that. Make sure it's not whose job is doing this. And it's one less responsibility for that individual who takes on Kathy's responsibility. Okay, I think that's good. Thanks for listening.
Any questions, Rick, or Gary?
No, I read it. I understand where you're coming from, most of it, yeah.
Just as clarity, so this ski hill, maybe Luke may even have said better. Similar to the curling club, they would run their own organization. We support it, or similar to the golf club, might be a better comparison.
That's how it operates currently.
Currently, yeah.
They're just town's gonna take over the writing the checks, payroll and stuff like that.
Correct.
But that won't happen until next season, because we're already into
Yeah.
Well, Paul and Kathy are doing the rest of this year.
Yeah.
To reiterate, my big thing was who's going to do it next year.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of appreciation for you and the team that you're building for this. I just want to make sure from my bar, the more responsibility our township takes on, and also feel the more liability if we take on as well. I just want to be careful that we're doing things right, doing things well, and then having the accountability in place to make sure the team is doing things well, which I think you've established processes, or you will be establishing processes to ensure that, but. I mean, we always want it to be done well from safety and fun and everything else. We want it to be beneficial. The only kind of hesitation that I have with it is, you know, we're already into February. It's not open yet. Last year didn't open at all. You know, what does the future look like from a weather side of things? Things for us to consider as we make investments into it. You know, how viable until we get into snowmaking and all of that. Something to pay attention to. I don't think that has to deter us now, but I think it needs to be kind of in our vision moving forward a bit.
And as I learned from Paul, I was like, how often does it open at Christmas? And he said only a couple of years it's ever open at Christmas. Typically it's like a February, March, maybe is like halfway into April type thing, right? That's the season. There's been a few years where I've gone where like, yeah, like we're skiing mid-January, but this year just with the snow, you know, like, and that's what you're saying. It's very weather dependent unless we're gonna start blowing our own snow.
Yeah.
And we got the river right there, you know, like only half to, but yeah, you start thinking of these things, right? Like if we actually, and I was like, well, we got 6 kids, why not give them shovels? And then start shoveling snow where the rocks are and packing it down. It sounds crazy, right? But if we had them go for an afternoon, then potentially we could open a couple weeks earlier. But yeah, you're 100% right. It's weather dependent. What does the snow look like moving forward? Can't predict the weather.
Yeah.
I'll say one thing with the lift, it's in fantastic shape. As long as the people riding it, if you remember a couple years ago, he asked for a couple new palms. Some kids get all like, they think they're cool or whatever. They're like going to the side and they're really torquing it. And so that'll bend it and then that's done, right? So really, but then if they're doing that, then they should be the one replacing it, in my opinion, right? So keeping that, but outside of that, it's borderline, and then there's the insurance aspect of it. I think it's 14 a year-ish. Those are the main overhead costs to have this service in our community.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
We have a motion moved by Councillor Duno, second by Councillor Dewey, resolve the council approve the provision of township administrative assistance to Trestle Ridge Ski Hill operations for the 2026 season. All in favor?
Okay, thanks, guys.
Any questions there? Any questions online there, Joe? None so far. Any questions from the audience? Right?
I don't have questions, but.
Mike.
Thank you. If I may have 3 questions I'd like to put forward to council with regard to the strategic plan. The first question being that one of the recommendations is identifying a sub-management group who will be responsible for managing the implementation of the economic development actions. And that's going to be something that, according to the plan, is going to start this year and going to be ongoing. My first question there is, will there be an ad hoc committee struck? And would there be opportunities for members of the public that are interested to be a part of said committee? The other thing with regard to the committee, will this committee have a defined terms of reference in the budget? And my final question is with regard to a hard copy. If there's a hard copy available of the study, we'd like to see what it will like. Thank you.
Is the first question, I don't think we talked about setting up a committee, John.
No, we haven't yet.
The second question was.
Will it have a budget?
With the public.
What's that?
The second question was the committee is formed, have a defined terms of reference and budget.
We haven't done a committee yet. We haven't
No.
thought of that. The third question, I'm sure we can provide a hard copy.
I think that's the best, not about it.
So right now, there's nothing in place and no thought in place for a committee.
No.
No, there's just thing was identified in the study this occurred. So I'm just going to make sure that either it is happening or it's not. Thank you.
Who's next?
Question.
Go ahead, Virginia.
It's a tourist question. I'm wondering why the Aguasado Gorge Road is closed for so many months of the year and we're missing out on a great deal of tourism.
We can never open that road up in the winter time.
Why is that?
Probably because it's a hazard going to the gorge at that time of year. To shovel snow on the walkway and stuff like that would be a hazard, in my opinion anyways.
It'd be a hazard for the person shoveling, you mean?
It'd be a hazard for the person walking and the town would be liable for that. Especially in the winter time. And we don't have the manpower to shovel, I can tell you that.
It's a sad thing because it was brought to my attention, there was a photographer from Thunder Bay that came down, took a picture of the gorge, and it's absolutely beautiful right now. Now, you would have to be above average in strength, I suppose, just walking, to walk from the parking lot to the walkway and down. Now, he did it, and you can do it, but not the average person can do it. And I mean, this is a really big attraction in this area. We are missing out on so many months of the year. And the same with the beach right now. When you go to the beach, you right now, there's so much snow that you cannot walk to the beach. You cannot walk along the boardwalk. In my opinion, these are things like, why in Terrace Bay are we ignoring the winter months for tourism? And even for our residents, we can't get around. Why is that?
We got no manpower, just said start shoveling off 400 yards of boardwalk for one thing.
But is there not money in the tourist, budget to be doing stuff like this? Like
I don't think it'd be in the tourist side, it'd be in
you said about the
number one, Virginia, that's wasn't on the agenda. Question period for the agenda items.
okay.
So we went a little over that, but if you want to talk about something like that, you're more than welcome to talk away from this meeting.
Okay.
I have a couple of things I can throw in last meeting too, if you want.
I want to say that I really like the program that you've written out there. I looked at number 4, working together, and it says in 4.
You're referring to the strategic plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Strategic plan number 4, working together. 41, it says that the branding process you might renew the old brand or make a new brand. Is that changing the lighthouse? Would that be a change away from them? It says branding process, new branding process. 41.
So if the council chose to undertake that project in the strategic plan, it would involve a complete rebranding of the community. We haven't done it for about 10 years now, if not a little bit more. The last time was when we built the lighthouse. All of our branding surrounded and became the lighthouse. You'll recall previously we had the crest logo of with the orange, the red, and the fish. So the next exercise, in my memory anyways, was the lighthouse. This would be a renewal of that. I remember when I first came here, I think typically once every 10 years you should do a refresh of your branding. So that would be part of that socket. So it would be to change our logo, possibly the color scheme. You'd either take a public consultation on that, have some ideas, that kind of things.
Okay, so it is what it is. And in 43, in the same one, under working together, 43, I like the idea of the job sharing. It sounds like a management decision in-house. And is that something that you actually have discussed with the council? Is that something that has been discussed? Training everyone to do each other's job?
I don't think it was meant to do that, eh? I think,
Yeah, I didn't quite get it.
no, I don't think it was. I think we talked about, like, is that an option? Job sharing, maybe 2 people fill one job, working 2.5 times, stuff like that. I think that's more along what we were talking about. And then start a mentoring program where we would mentor our newer employees and help them out. You use your more seasoned ones to help your newer ones. Yeah.
I think the other part of that too is we have some really excellent administrative staff, but we know they're not going to be here forever. And so as we can create some of the job sharing, then when they transition or retire. We have capable people that we're always mentoring and bringing up.
That was the way I interpreted it because
I did too.
I did, yeah.
That's how I look at it. I think it's a management thing. It's a
Yeah.
good idea. I like it.
Yeah, council director, management.
And I think, it says community volunteers, but I think I would have somewhere liked to see the word churches, wheels. I like those kind of words. I like words that mean something to me. Rather than, like, I think the document must be great for the board table, for the boardroom. It must be great. It's very clear. You could divvy that up into separate jobs very easily. Oh, it's very, it's well written. And, but until you get to the nitty gritty where you're discussing what you're planning to do, you haven't really grabbed me. And, which is in there. I have seen that. But I think I'd like to see the word church, like, it says social supports, it says community volunteers, but I think I'd like to see church, I'd like to see ski hill, I'd like to see specific examples in, if this is going out to other people to influence them to come to us, then I'd like to see those words in there. I think they're missing.
Any other questions? Any questions online? None?
Last call for questions online.
Good, thank you. Next item, midnight count for St. Louis, second by count for Dubay, resolve the council move the next portion of this meeting in camera at 19:29 to discuss approval of minutes of the previous in-camera sessions held on January 13th and January 17th. One matter, advice that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for the purpose regarding the lease of the Terrace Bay Airport, and one matter with respect to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees regarding significant employee milestones. All in favor? Carried. 5-minute recess.